Okay, look. Dead by Daylight is a game that has gone through a lot of changes. From the small little janky game it was in 2016 to the broken behemoth it is now almost 9 years later, and it's still honestly going pretty strong. With a large player base on all consoles, games that are now extending the lore and universe, and even a movie coming out in... oh. It'll be out eventually, right? But that's not to say that the game is without its faults. We'll get there in a second, though. For starters, this isn't a review. I am not a games journalist, and you should take my words with a grain of salt. You should take my words about as seriously as you take the terms and conditions when you sign up for something. I'm just a guy talking about a game, and in no way am I expecting you to agree with me on everything, if anything at all. Got it? Good. Let's continue. Dead by Daylight is a 4v1 multiplayer game, where 4 players play the survivors, tasked with repairing generators so they can turn on the exit doors and escape. Sounds pretty simple, right? Well, it would be, except that there's another player as a killer, whose sole goal is to kill each and every survivor and sacrifice them on meat hooks. If the survivors escape, they win. If the killer sacrifices all 4 survivors, they win. Each game is played in a randomly selected arena with different variations of each map. 7 generators spawn in the map with a full lobby, and survivors must repair 5 of them, so there is a bit of strategy to this. Fixing certain generators may cause the last 3 to be too close together, making it easy for the killer to loop around them. Too far, and it becomes a pain to scramble between each of them, so there has to be a little bit of thinking in between. Survivors can have up to 4 perks to make their time in the field easier, as well as an item and 2 modifiers for said item. For example, a medkit with add-ons that make it work faster and have more charges. The killer, on the other hand, can also have 4 perks, but their weapons are set. Each killer, however, has their own unique ability and add-ons for said abilities. So, for example, the Trapper can normally carry 2 bear traps, but with the Trapper bag, that number increases from 2 to 3. So that's the basics, and honestly, it works really well. Matches are short normally, the game can be quite enjoyable, everyone tends to use different items and perks, so each match is different, nothing tends to feel samey. The environments are all well made artistically, and bring an odd beauty to the game. And the tension of the game, especially when playing a survivor, has my jaw clenched so hard that I might shatter my teeth. But, unfortunately, this is where my praise for the game ends. I think it's important that I express that I do not hate Dead by Daylight. If anything, I've quite enjoyed playing the game again, mostly for this video, but also just on my own time, and I've put a lot more time than I thought I would beforehand. I think I've put about 30 hours since I wrote the script, and probably more since I've actually started editing it. Just keep that in mind while you're listening to me complaining, that this doesn't come from a place of malice, almost entirely. It comes from a place of love and frustration and annoyance. Hitboxes are a mess. I can understand hitting someone on the other side of a window to a degree. I can understand hitting someone who just started climbing a pallet. However, when the blades or claws or whatever weapon very clearly misses me, but I still take the hit, that's a bad hitbox. It's really frustrating to be running away from a killer, and the weapon should not be hitting me. The range is not checking out, but I still take damage because either the server's messed up or something's going wrong, or I don't even know what excuse that they could possibly pull out of the rabbit's hat, but it's bullshit. The worst thing about hitboxes, ironically enough, aren't even the hitboxes themselves. It's the fact that Behavior has known about this for years and have seemingly done nothing as it's still happening and actually still pretty bad. A lesser known issue is contextual prompts. I'm obviously trying to jump this window, but there's a totem right beside it. For some reason, the game prioritizes the totem over running from the fucking killer. Again, it's a lesser issue, and I've only encountered it twice while playing. I've only got one recording of it, but it's still something that can be a pain, especially in the heat of the moment. Cheaters are a big issue too. Survivors not dying on hooks, in-game collapse not killing the survivors, effectively holding the killer hostage, being able to instantly free themselves without the perks required for it, stuff like that. Sure, we, the players, can report them, and usually they will get banned, but it's a short-term solution to a long-term problem that seems to just keep creeping back up, and the devs don't seem invested in solving the problem, which surprises me for two reasons. Cheaters make player retention go down. People don't want to play with cheaters. That's just a kind of a proven fact, unless of course you're Call of Duty, but that's different. And two, you think that after years of this, you'd do more just to keep your security in check. But let's talk about another problem, add-on hell. It is an obvious fact that as a game's lifespan continues, the amount of content will always increase, with very few exceptions. I mean, just look at Dead or Alive 4. These content expansions, DLCs, add-ons, etc. will almost always cost money, and Dead by Daylight is no exception, as they've had a lot of paid killers and survivors added to the game. Off of the bat, all of the franchise killers like Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, Chucky, Ghostface, the Pig, they're all paid. This makes sense, as they pay for the IP and have to make enough money to justify the expense. These packs also come with survivors from their respective franchises, as well as the perks associated with the character. These DLCs cannot be obtained through normal gameplay. They must be paid for. Again, this makes sense. The IP holders are going to want to see some of that money made from their characters. I'm not complaining about that. However, their original characters, the characters that they made specifically for this game, are all also paid for. And before anyone starts typing, but you can earn them in-game. Yes, you can. But the grind to earn one character is so fucking long that everyone just seems to agree that it's a better use of your time to just fucking pay for them. I understand that giving free things out isn't good business practice, but sometimes rewarding your players for simply existing is a good way to build good faith. Now, I'm not suggesting that they just give away the whole damn library, but a killer here or a survivor there makes a difference. Speaking of paying, if you paid for all the DLC in this game, it would be over $300 American, and you know it's bad when you've almost caught up to games like The Sims in terms of add-ons. So they've got a lot of add-ons, and they certainly cost a pretty penny if you want to play with everything. But let's throw another problem into this mix. IP retraction. What's that? You want to buy a killer or survivor but that chapter has been removed? Well, that sucks. Should've gotten it when it was still available. This is definitely a nitpick, considering it's only happened with 2 chapters, and one of them was brought back, but I'd argue that having to deal with it in the first place is a pain in the ass to deal with. Sure, you can still play the characters if you already bought them, but for someone new, who sees a character they like, they can't have because they weren't around back then, that would suck. What if I lost my account and can't get it back? Guess I'm just out of fucking luck, and I understand. Trust me, I do. This is of no fault to the devs. I mean, this kind of shit is the exact reason why Friday the 13th was shut down, but that doesn't make it suck any less. So we have some problems. Cheaters, button priority, hitboxes, and add-ons that are getting out of hand. But then you have retcons that just weren't needed, like with the nurse, or that simply don't make sense, like the entity not allowing killers near each other, yet the 2v8 game mode makes it seem like they actually enjoy the killers teaming up. Or how about the entity wipes the memories of the survivors even though it supposedly feeds on continued dread? Not good enough? How about characters and their actions being changed from original lore when archives released, like with Legion? Does the name Benedict Baker ring a bell to anyone? His journal was the original lore. It's how we got all of our information up until Chapter 8. Now he's just gone and they haven't done anything with him other than overwriting his old scraps. But it's a multiverse, Alex. Everything is both true and not true now. Do you understand how pathetic that sounds in any context? You and I know very well they never planned on doing a multiverse. We wrote ourselves into a corner with bad planning, so we're doing a multiverse to have a get-out-of-jail-free card. That's probably how that conversation went down. Behind closed doors, of course. It's lazy writing through and through. Then there's the community itself. Like most fandoms, I'd say the general fan base of Dead by Daylight is fine. About 70% of it at least. Sure, most people in the game aren't going to go out of their way to help you win the best game ever, but they're also not going to actively fuck you over, unless you're the killer, of course, but that makes sense. However, it's that other 30% that's just fucking unbearable. Entitled people who demand a win at every turn, scream when changes aren't made in their favor, and can be very toxic people to interact with. Ironically enough, streamers seem to be at the forefront of it. Now, I'm not talking about all streamers, of course. I'm not talking about Spook and Jukes, Spooky Loops, Aaron Duke, or Noob3. I'm not gonna name names, but if you've been in the community for any amount of time, I'm sure at least one name has popped up into your mind already. Someone who just was rude as hell. Nothing was ever their fault. They played perfectly and still lost, and that shouldn't have happened. Maybe they're extremely combative. Maybe they get a bit racist too. I'm sure there's someone you've thought of. But shitty people, especially the loud ones, make it really hard for some people to enjoy the game as much. And the more toxicity, the less people feel comfortable being around and interacting with their environment, especially when some of them are partnered with Behavior Interactive themselves. Well, if you don't like it, just go play another game. Well, that's just it, random person I made up for this scenario. There's really no other game like it. Last year died, came back, died again, and is being resurrected as Forest Hills the last year. Texas Chainsaw Massacre got taken out back and shot about as quickly as it came out. Evil Dead died quick as could be, and Behavior's own Death Garden was sunsetted 5 years ago. Behavior has achieved the Overwatch effect, having absolutely no competition at all in any given genre, and standing tall as really the only viable game in said genre. And just like Blizzard, they've decided, why fix the problems if they can't go anywhere else for the experience? And just like Blizzard, the moment a competent competitor shows up, all of these issues will be magically fixed, and things the community has been asking for will suddenly be implemented. I think it's important to note that I don't hate Dead by Daylight. Far from it, actually. I love this game, and I do want it to improve, but I really hate the attitude behind it. Mostly from the devs who, while saying things and talking about the future, don't look to the past and improve what's already there. I hate that we keep getting new collaborations instead of updates geared towards completely fixing bugs or server latency or some other holes in the code. But I hate the attitude from some of the fan base as well. Those who will defend this game with their dying breath and refuse to see that it needs to be improved. People who will attack you because in their eyes, this behemoth of a game, as large as it is, has no errors. Regardless, that was my mindless rambling. Remember not to take any of my words to heart. This comes from a place of frustration and annoyance, but ultimately of love. I want the game to improve, and I hope that it will, regardless of what ends up happening and what comes from the future. Anyway, have a good night, everyone. I hope you all have a good day. We have a Discord if you want to join it, and I stream every weekend from 10:30 to about 1:30 or 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Maybe I'll see you there. And finally, a quick shout out to these people for believing in me and keeping this stuff happening. I'll see you later.